this brings to mind one other thing we're going to hit before we go to our guest, and that was the Nancy Grace debacle. Because Nancy Grace, of course, and I never thought there could be a more obnoxious woman on the face of the earth than Roseanne Barr, but she has done it. For years I've seen these shows when I'd be in hotel rooms and I'd be flipping around on TV, and I thought she was the most fucking obnoxious person, not just woman, but person on television, with that nails in a blackboard voice and that stink face that she gives everybody and that condescending, obnoxious, arrogant attitude. And she's got a whole staff of people, including that one woman that's on there that looks like she has permanent stink face and like she's trying to be the stereotype of a woman that you wouldn't want to fuck for money under any circumstance. Well, and Nancy, they're so upset. It just sounded like that. It's just a horrible show that's basically for middle-aged women who don't get laid a lot and whose batteries and their vibrators have died, and they watch this show. She's not a journalist. She's a sensationalist. We know this, but she had a show, of course, because anytime she can knock wrestling, she's going to. And she had a show about Warrior's death. And by the way, no drugs or chemicals or whatever were found. It was a heart attack. Now, whether that's from steroid use or not can be debated, but he wasn't on drugs at the time. But in the process, she managed to alienate every wrestling fans in the process of this program because she put up a list of all the wrestlers who have died young over the last 20 years. And on the list, this is what pissed me off. On the list were people who died of causes not related to anything any choices they made or anything they did, including Owen Hart, which was bullshit, and including my friend Brian Hildebrand, Mark Curtis, who died at 38 of stomach cancer.
Chris Candido was on the list.
Chris Candido was on the list, died of a blood clot. And so the Twitter fans were up in arms, and I kind of led the charge. And thank you, all of the cult of Cornette on Twitter for throwing in, because we basically, cancel Nancy Grace was trending worldwide as a result of this obnoxious fucking cunt's goddamn, she never said that they all died of drugs, but it was highly implicated, highly implied. And she does no research because she doesn't know what she's talking about. And she's a fucking pig-faced bitch. We could say that. But let one of the members of the cult of Cornette say it better. Trace Armstrong from Birmingham, Alabama. This is only one of the tons of emails I got. Mr. Cornette, I'm a lifelong wrestling fan going on 20 years now. This sport that I love has had its problems over the years with guys dying due to drug overdoses, suicides, and every other manner of death. Some of them played with fire and got burned, while others like Joey Morella and Mark Curtis died from circumstances beyond their control. However, this fat pig cunt, Nancy Grace, cares nothing for human beings or getting the facts. It's obvious that whoever researches for her show doesn't know their asshole from a hole in the ground and would possibly mistake China for a woman. On top of that, this woman makes Sable look like a saint. Truthfully, both Sable and Nancy Grace have a lot in common. They're both ignorant to the wrestling business. They have about as much charisma as Kevin Dunn using a vacuum cleaner to masturbate while his Bucky Beaver teeth chatter. And both of them obviously slept their way to the top because neither one of them have enough talent to have gotten there on their own merit. Now, I disagree with that, because Nancy Grace's speeches cure sex offenders, because when you listen and hear Nancy Grace talk, you never want to have sex with a woman again. He goes on to say, I'd rather hear Vince Russo explain to me why it was a good idea to put the WCW championship on himself than listen to this no talent, lying sack of horse shit talk about how when a wrestler dies, drugs must be involved. I think we should take her out behind a barn and let her find out what it feels like to get kicked by a horse. Trace Armstrong, Birmingham, Alabama, a real wrestling fan since 1984. And Trace, none of us could have said it better. So, Nancy Grace is not going to get canceled. And I'm sure her producers laugh at the idea that wrestling fans are upset. But just be aware that this pig-faced bitch does this to attract attention to herself. She's a female Bill O'Reilly. She's just appealing to, if there's a girl kidnapped and goes missing, or the scandal of, oh God, who was the Florida girl? Casey Anthony. That's weeks and weeks and weeks. I understand that Nancy Grace actually had children a few years ago, and I'm thinking it had to be artificial insemination or possibly an alien probe, because what human male would want to have sex with Nancy Grace? Maybe that's a question
as George Carlin's once said, he wouldn't fuck her with a stolen dick.
And there you go. And so there is the Nancy Grace situation.